Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for another discussion video. How about that? Today's topic, something that has been discussed many of times in Discords and PlayStation messages chats, inside Conclave matches, anywhere. But I am getting tired of this particular topic line, so let's just crush it again. And I'm gonna make it a very short video for you guys, so let's do it. Let's talk about gun users and their strict hatred against melee players. This here is starting to become such an alarming topic in this new generation of Conclave that is absolutely absurd. I mean, new generation Conclave players, these days, and especially those people, and there's even old generation players who play like new generation motherfuckers these days. It's the same as, in real life, when you compare a fully grown adult to a teenager or somebody who just turned 18. They're naive, uneducated, and pretty fucking retarded. Like, their points almost don't have any weight, and they just don't have enough experience to really comment on the grounds and basis that they're actually trying to, prove their point in. Now, some of the things they may say are correct, but some of them are just uninformed, opinionated, decisions and determinations based on what little that they have seen, in Conclave, in PvP, right? Me, as a 6-year veteran of Conclave, I've seen pretty much every era of the Conclave scene. I've seen when they've had arcanes. I've seen when they've had, the original stances. I've seen when they've had Zaws, Kuva Brahma. I've seen Hydro Pantera. Everything that has been wrong or right with Conclave up until this day, I have seen it. I have all of the power to make an opinion and give you guys information regarding this. Because I'm the Kamas God. Everybody's going to listen to what I got to say any damn way, even if you don't like it. So let's go ahead and crack into it. The most alarming opinion I see from people who disrespect or don't like melee is that they say that it doesn't reflect the skill 100% of the time of people who use it. Now, this is somewhat correct, but not fully. All right? When it comes to something like, my dual Kamas or any other twin sword in the game, that stance has been nerfed to such shit that the only reasonable combo in it is the neutral mash or the side button, basically, which gives you the wide, the stun combo, basically. The stun combo is the only thing that you can really use from the stance now. It's absolute dog shit at this point. Then you'll see scumbags, just sitting there sliding with something, for example, as the dark split sword, but that's another, topic line entirely. My point being is that when you look at something like, melee as a whole, you need to understand the minutia and everything that melee is. You need to look back at the history of the melee stances. You need to look at the damage. You need to do all of that. All right. There's more to just, me pressing circle and spamming melee, as people like to say. That shit's really retarded. I understand that you guys just see somebody waving blades at you and you think it's spamming. That's fine. All right. But let me ask you this. With your guys' logic, right? You say that I'm spamming melee because all you see is me coming at you like, right? But by that same logic, shouldn't you be spamming bullets at me by, just holding R2 the whole time with your little auto? So you're essentially spamming bullets at me, aren't you? By that same logic, I'm just saying, if that's how y'all want to think, melee actually works, then How about I think that's how guns work then? Now you see how stupid that sounds, right? Spamming bullets, spamming melee. Do you see how stupid that shit sounds? Do you see how much of a pussy ass mentality that actually, projects? Like, if you're really gonna tell me that you're just probably one of these new generation fucking complainer ass motherfuckers who can't, hope to hit a shot against a melee person if they're that close to you. I know so many players who can deal with the melee, that I or other players have come at them with, and they don't complain. All right? And I'm specifically talking about a particular player named Lumine when I bring up this subject matter as well. And you know me. I don't mind putting a player on blast, but Lumine, you're trash. Like, you're honestly really trash. You hide behind a wood blazing chakram to knock people over just because you don't want to deal with their offense. Now, while this isn't exactly the most scummy of tactics, it projects the aura that you really are one of the most scared pussy behind players I've ever seen. And, a lot of people besides myself are kind of tired of dealing with it. A blazing chakram is far too advantageous. You have to, like, when you look at things like this, the way I look at them in a technical sense, you realize that, my likelihood of immediately killing you with melee, especially with shield gating, is so little compared to that of a blazing chakram. Let's look at blazing chakram for a second. It, in many cases, completely deletes shields, does continuous burn damage, increases incoming damage to the person that you hit it with by 25%, and gives you a free knockdown. That shit's kind of busted. That's pretty busted, right? Now, you can consider that there is a melee by the name of the Sylvan Aegis, whichever one you want to call it, that does the same thing. You have a stance that gives you a knockdown, continuous fire damage, and in some cases can break shield. Now, there's that, all right? And you can get somebody in the lobby who's just completely spamming that at you. But let's go back to the blazing chakram for a second, right? If somebody's coming at you with a Sylvan Aegis, all you have to do is hit them with a blazing chakram and they get interrupted. It's that simple. So when you go back to somebody like Lumine, it's a complete anti-melee ability. You don't really need to apply any brain power, especially because it's only 25 energy. 25 energy for probably one of the most busted second abilities that you can get in Conclave. All right. And so when you get to considering all of the minutia and the deep details of the moves, you see that a blazing chakram pretty much beats any melee. All right, so why are you complaining about melee in the first place when you have a very cheap and easy tool to use to completely subvert any kind of melee? What that tells me is that without that blazing chakram, you're pretty garbage. Right? So if you don't want me thinking like that, then you shouldn't be thinking of me like that. When I just want to use my dual Kamas that have been nerfed to shit. Like, if you were dealing with Kamas in 2017, 2018, I'd see your point. You had a pause combo that had a full leap attack with range, lands and does a knockdown, all right? And even the leap itself back then had a knockdown instance. So you had the old Kamas stance, and I just refer to it as the Kamas stance because, to me, dual Kamas are the most definitive dual swords in the game. So when you look at dividing blades and where it's come from, and then where it's at now, it's garbage. You now have a leap attack within the pause combo as it used to be, and now it's just basically the block combo. You have that, which basically the leap is useless. It goes right over people's heads and leaves you wide open for anybody to hit you. There's no immunity frames to it. And then you land after the leap and you no longer get that knockdown AoE slam that comes at the end. Alright? Now, I've made a video back in the past talking about the old Kamas stance. It's one of the best of Wreckage React videos. You can go ahead and watch that. But what I'm basically getting to the point is that people are complaining about Melee right now. Like, New Age Melee is trash. Let's talk about more, you know what I'm saying? The polearms, all right? Polearm stance has been completely destroyed, all right? You now have what used to be the blocking combo, the one that does like the leap forward, like a lunge attack basically. That doesn't go anywhere. In fact, it actually stays static, you know, in place when you do it. Your blocking combo is now that weird like thing where you take the pull on and you leap like that, like you do a flip. That shit is actually trash too. It has no hitbox. It's only a straight line hitbox, where you have something like and it only has one hit in that leap too, so it's pretty garbage. You know, you get to something. I think the only real melee stances that survive the test of time are single swords and the kanas. That's like it, basically. Like, you could still use a single sword right now. You could still see you use a Nakana right now. But most people, besides myself and those of my clan, if they use dual swords, they're only going to use it for slides because they suck with the stance. And you're going to go look at something like polearms, and all you can really do is do aerial attacks and slams because the stance sucks. You look at shit like that's been bad for a very long time, such as like fists, and I'm not talking about Obex, I'm talking about shit like Ankairos and Teko. Those have been bad for a very long time. You look at, you know, sparring melee, now talking about Obex. Those have been nerfed to shit. Like, you no longer have the AoE pause combo where you would surge forward and do that AoE blast of electricity and knock people over. You no longer have that. The only way you can do that now is through a ground slam. All right? And then you look at glaives and, you know, how they've gone. You know, the stance is now trash too. So the encompassing point is, why are people still complaining about Melee in 2022 when it is so much, and I mean so much, easier to deal with it than it was when I was growing up as a Conclave player? Alright? So this is basically, you know, the closing statement right here. You need to take your pussy ass motherfucking asses and learn the real minutia of Melee as it is right now in 2022, and stop complaining to me about how trash Melee is when you didn't have to deal with the Melee that I now have to deal with, you know, that I once had to deal with, you know. And that's just kind of all I got to say. So this video did kind of come out to be longer than I thought it was going to be. But I think there was a lot that needed to be said, you know. And hold on. I think I got one other thing that needs to be said that I really didn't quite, you know, get at during the video. But going back to guns, basically, like, if you want to argue that certain melees, or just Melee as a whole, doesn't possess enough skill, then there are definitely many guns, right, that have gone through ages of meta and different players and generations, right, that are still tried and true to this day, and are still able to be used, like by pretty much anybody. Like a Karak can be used by pretty much anybody. A Daikyu can be used by pretty much anybody. A Octa-core is probably still one of the more precision-based, high-powered primaries, but still almost certainly can be picked up by anybody. Snipetron can be picked up by anybody. Vectis can be picked up by anybody. A Bratton can be picked up by anybody. Like, you have so many options. Stradivar can be picked up by anybody and they'll look good, right? That's basically what I'm basically trying to say is that there are way too many guns right now and so little melee that can be picked up by anybody and they'll look good. A Rubico can be picked up by anybody and they'll look good. All right? So that's just basically what I'm saying. Like, you know, to just reiterate that. There are a significant less amount of melees these days in this generation of Conclave that can be picked up by anybody and they'll look good as compared to guns. In fact, when I was, you know, in the prime of my Conclave career, everybody complained about melee and they wanted it nerfed. Now that it is nerfed, we still have gun users complaining about melee, PC players coming over to console complaining about melee. Get your fucking shit together. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's angering, you know what I'm saying, to see all these new generation players acting like pussies whenever I get into a lobby. Like, oh, I don't want to deal with melee, so, you know, I'm just not even going to try. That right there in and of itself makes you less of a player than myself, because I deal with guns, overpowered guns, every time I get into lobbies, bro. Like, you don't understand. I see Octa-cores, I see Karaks, I see Snipetrons and Rubicos everywhere. And I gotta deal with that with my nerfed Kama stance. Alright, I gotta sit here with a fucking weak dividing blade stance that I used to have in Supremacy for 3 years. 4 years, 5 years, right? I would say after my third year, that's when, you know, the stance got nerfed. But, you know, like, I'm out here with my nerfed weapons. Even my Ogress is nerfed. We all know that, you know what I'm saying? And I'm out here with nerfed weapons while y'all still out here with an Octa-core that's been good for 6 years of Conclave. Never changed, right? And I'm the one actually who should be complaining. But I'm looking at these meta using ass motherfuckers complaining like shit over fucking stuff that used to be more broken back in the day. And you can't deal with it in this age. What that tells me is, again, that we don't have nothing but straight pussies and retards in today's Conclave scene. And I'm honestly disappointed. So, I'm gonna go ahead and end this video at that note. If you pussy ass, hating ass motherfuckers got something to say, leave it in the comments. If you like this video and what I've discussed here, leave a like. It's really that simple. And don't forget to subscribe to one of the realest Conclave channels that you're ever gonna find. Hachiro20 the Kamas God. And then I'm out of the building.